Good day. Welcome to Drew's Book Reviews. It's time for another book review by Drew, coming right up. So today we are going to be continuing our book review series on Larry Niven's known space series, Ringworld specifically. So I've already got the review for the first Ringworld book up on my channel. I'll link it below for you. Today we're going to be talking about the second book, Ringworld Engineers by Larry Niven. So if you're interested in what I have to say about book 2 of this series, stay tuned. That's coming right up. Right, so Ringworld Engineers, picking up where Ringworld left off, but about 20 to 25 years later after the events of Ringworld. So we have got Speaker to Animals, formerly known as Speaker to Animals. He now goes by the name Chimmy, and we've also, of course, got Louis Wu. Both of these characters of ours are kidnapped by a deposed leader of the puppeteers and brought to the Ringworld, and the puppeteers plot in an effort to regain some kind of legitimacy within the puppeteer culture and government and all that good stuff. So they are on their way to the Ringworld, Chimney and Louis Wu being brought there against their will. And what they discover when they arrive on this Ringworld is that the Ringworld is completely unstable. It is on its way down. It's going to be destroyed, and it's no longer stable. And that's for the trillions of inhabitants, because you have to remember, this Ringworld is massive. It's huge. It's like a Dyson sphere, except a ring surrounding the stars. So we're talking millions upon billions of miles of land. It's like the equivalent of a whole bunch of planets stuck together. And of course, so they have to try and save the Ringworld, and we got Louis and Chimney who are trying to find a way to fix this problem while encountering, of course, all these different dangers on this inhospitable world at times, just trying to save the inhabitants of the Ringworld itself. Now, what's interesting is what we have built in here is there are different parts of the Ringworld that are basically set up like maps of different worlds. There's a map of Mars, a map of Earth, a map of the Zinti homeworld, which is where Chimney comes from. And these different maps have grown up around different cultures, and different hominid species have evolved throughout the Ringworld's history. And so this goes all the way back to the creators or engineers of the Ringworld, which our characters have to find in order to survive. Not only in order to survive themselves, but to save the lives of everybody on the Ringworld. So this is quite a challenge that they have up for them, and they have to figure out a solution to this. And so that's kind of the basic premise behind Ringworld Engineers and what our characters have to go through. Now, if you look at my first review on Ringworld itself, I definitely have some criticisms for that. And I do have some criticisms for this particular book as well, Ringworld Engineers. I will say that I did like the Ringworld Engineers a little bit more than I did the other book, Ringworld. I found the plot a little bit easier to follow. I found that I cared a little bit more for our characters' plight in Ringworld Engineers, and it just seemed to have a bit of a nicer flow to it. And overall, I'm not sure that I could really explain or pinpoint what I mean by that, but definitely I will say that I did like this book better. I did enjoy it better. I think the character development was a bit more fleshed out within this particular volume, the Ringworld Engineers. And I like what was happening in the storyline. It wasn't just an adventure and trying to survive, which is fun and all, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that kind of thing isn't fun or isn't interesting to read or anything like that. It's just there seemed to be a larger goal outside of exploration within this book, which is something that I certainly like Dennis. We have a problem that's affecting the entire Ringworld, and now I'm much more invested in the Ringworld and what's happening with it and where it's going from there. So I can say that I am enjoying this book more than I did the first one, Ringworld. I definitely like Ringworld Engineers more. I did give it a 3 out of 5 star rating on Goodreads, but I would say, if we could compared to the first Ringworld, which I considered maybe a 2.5 and just rounded up to 3. I'd say this is definitely up there like a 2.8, 2.9. So again, rounded up to 3. Definitely a better book than the first one. I mean, I still have a little bit of a problem with how some of the aspect of female characters are portrayed. Specifically the Zinti, the females and their species are basically supposed to be these unintelligent, non-sentient creatures that are just there for reproductive purposes. So I don't really like that idea that's presented within this book. But the other female characters within this book certainly seem to be much stronger than, as far as the actual characters, not just speaking of the Zinti females as a species, but the actual female characters within this book. Now, I'd pronounce their names, but I'm finding it very difficult to pronounce these inventive and wildly crazy names that Larry Niven's come up with, which honestly is one of my nitpicks. Maybe it is nitpicky, I don't know. But like just the names that he comes up with, I've just kind of resorted to referring to them as their short form as written in the book rather than the full long length, which gets to be a bit of a garbled tongue twister. So that's kind of thing. Now, I'm all for coming up with inventive names for books and characters. Love the unique names, but please just make them pronounceable, because sometimes it's just I'm getting tongue-tied just trying to read it. Maybe he did that on purpose, I don't know. But yeah, so, but the female characters within this book definitely, it's nice to see them in here without having the role simply as being like a good luck charm or for the purposes of sex. Although sex is certainly part of this book, not in any kind of detail, mind you, but it just seemed like the aspect of sex was just kind of thrown in there for the sake of having sex in the story. So I'm not sure there was really any, good, reasonable purpose for it being there. It didn't really, I mean, it didn't hinder the story, but it didn't exactly progress the plot or story either in a lot of ways, and I just think it could have been done better. Both in terms of having sex and the story could have been done better, but also we didn't really need it in there. There's better ways to approach the storyline development than just throwing that in there for the sake of throwing it in there. So some of my other kind of nitpicks with the book as a whole is, throughout the book we have Louis Wu, who he's basically, we're told over and over again that he's this drug addict. So he's got this probe stuck into his brain to stimulate the pleasure centers of his brain, and so he's become addicted to this. That has become his life. So over and over again throughout the story, we're told that he is an addict, or we're told that he's going through withdrawal. But at no point do we ever see Louis Wu behaving in a way that would suggest he's legitimately going through withdrawal, or that he is legitimately an addict. And just, it's not there. It's not portrayed very well. The reader is just told he's a drug addict, he has withdrawal. But we see nothing in the story that would explain his withdrawal symptoms. It's mentioned that he's going through withdrawal symptoms, but we don't even know what the withdrawal symptoms are. It's not explained. It's just, you're told and you're supposed to accept it. And so it didn't really feel authentic. It didn't feel convincing with respect to that. And it's not worked well into the story. For me at least, I mean, yeah, I could imagine what withdrawal symptoms might be like for something like that. I just don't know. But it really didn't help the believability of the story when you're repeatedly told something that just doesn't come through in the storytelling of the characters. And this is mainly why I wouldn't give it a solid 3. And I like to round up on my Goodreads reviews. Essentially, if it's more than 0.5, I round up to the next star, and that's the only reason I'm rounding up to a 3 here. So definitely I did like this more than Ringworld itself, but still, I wouldn't put it at a 3 or above if I could do a partial star on Goodreads. So rounding to 3, sitting around 2.7, 2.8 for me. One of the other kind of things there is, Louis Wu is referred to a flatlander consistently. I have no idea what that means. There's no point of reference in the book that really explains that in any way. I don't know what flatlander means. There's no context to that. And so I really don't understand the reference to him being called a flatlander. So those are just some of my thoughts on Ringworld Engineers. Better than Ringworld. So the series does seem to be getting better, and I hope that that trend continues, because I am going to finish the series, and we'll just kind of have to see where it goes from there. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the Ringworld Engineers. So of course, don't forget to stay tuned. We will be, of course, continuing this book review series throughout the month of November. I fully expect I'm going to take a quick break from Ringworld and get on to something else first, but then we'll be right back into Ringworld. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Ringworld Engineers. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having yourself a wonderful day, and we will definitely be sure to see you next time on the next episode of Julie's Book Reviews. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already, and we will see you next time. Until then, keep on reading. Bye.